So here what happens is JavaScript has come out with a new ES6 version, which is used in all the new frameworks also. Okay, whether it is Angular or React or any of the new other frameworks, we'll be using this. So let's take a look at this. This arrow function is one of the main things here. So if you see here, we have already seen that in the previous video, but let's revisit it quickly. So you have a function test. Now that can be rewritten as a let test equal to in brackets the parameter and console dot. If there is only one line of code, the curly brace of the code is also not required. So the last line is how you create a function. The main purpose is to reduce lines of code. Okay. So that is the main thing. Now the next thing is you have optimized for loops. Now you don't have to say like, we saw one array here. So now if you create a list or an array like this, so you can quickly create like, for x of cars, and you can create the variables over here. So let's take a look here. Now if I had this we already seen over here in this array, but let's also add this over here. Okay. And what I'll do here is I'll just add it to this arrow function that we have created so that we understand it better. And here it's what it does is it say, see, we created a cars array and it's just x of cars. X means it will automatically create a variable. And what we'll do here is we'll write out get element. So you can also write to the HTML directly. Okay. So let's and we will only run this one. So now if you see here BMD Volvo Mini, correct? So we didn't create any while and all that. So let and also we are not given. So we created over here and it just loops through this. So this is an optimized. This automatically detects the data type of it. If you give numbers here, it will print this. Documented write is basically writing to the screen. The next one that we have to see from ES6 is, so now another thing that you have thing is we have default value in functions. ES6 has introduced function parameters. Now if you see the function tested, now you usually say x, y and then say console dot and you pass the parameter. Now in case you don't pass a parameter, you can pass a default one. And also there is another dot parameter called as rest parameter, allows a function to treat an indefinite number of arguments as an array. Okay. So basically if you say function sum, you can pass n number of parameters. I mean, you don't define the number of parameters over there. Okay. You can use the args 0, 1, 2, 3 to find out which is it. So two important ones. One is you can pass a default value to it, and then suppose you don't know how many methods how many params you're going to pass, that is also okay. You can use the rest parameter, that is called dot 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 and the variable name, and using the index of that you can detect the parameter. So let us see this. Now let me take this function here and let me write it over here. So here function xy, so console x plus y is equal to 10. Okay, so now this is going, and now let me call this from Control Alt Shift is the Shift Alt F is for indentation. Okay, so I have created this function, test it. So if this y, I am giving a default parameter. So and this one I'm going to call now from here. I'm going to pass only one parameter, say 100, and the next time I'll pass a parameter called 30. Okay, see, understand this. So what it will do here, first time it will go here, x is passed, y it will take automatically. Second time 30 is being passed, so it won't substitute that value. So let me save this code. So that is parameter passing. So first time it takes 110 because the second parameter is not passed. Second time it will take 130 because 30 is being passed. Right, so now this is done. Now the next parameter we are talking about is the indefinite amount of parameters. What we'll do is we will use this one, indefinite params. So here we can give it the rest operator and say args. I'm going to loop through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through this parameter. Let's see how. So here I'll understand. Once we run this, it will make sense. And now I'm going to call this indefinite params. Okay. So this is the magic of JavaScript 6. So this is really an awesome thing. So this is what is used sometimes in machine learning and all those concepts. That's why it's used. Now I'm calling the same method indefinite number of parameters. Here we know we are only substituting tested. We are only differentiating this parameter. We are only defaulting one parameter. But here we are passing indefinite parameter. Let us see it working. So if you see here, it has printed all of this. Right? It has printed all of this. So let's say we'll also say console method ended, so that we'll know the difference in the console log. So we go there. So the first time, see, it passed 3 parameters. Second time it passed n number of parameters. So this handles it beautifully. Okay. So this, what it does is args. Now see, in this parameter you use the index of this. So you remember args 0. We don't want to do that. We can also say something else. Okay. So that way it will work. Try to understand this. This function is getting passed. This dot will handle n number of parameters using the index. So instead of using, this is the optimized loop. If you don't understand this, go back to the array chapter. Okay. In that we have seen how to write optimized loops. Okay. We know this args is multiple values, so we just loop through the args. And if you want a particular index, you'll have to go to that particular value. Okay. So that way. So the next thing that we are going to look ES6 is array method. So there are a couple of array methods you can find. There are new values, like you can give a comparative value here, and you can create an array directly, and then you can do a find if it exists. Then you can find an index based on value or function. Then there are a couple of new mathematical functions also: truncate, sign, CBRT, log functions. These are all related to mathematics. Okay. So these are some new functions. So you create an array as we have seen in that array chapter, and you can try this. You can do a comparative find. So like, say for example, we will do 2 of this. So if you go here, console this. So you can find a value here. I mean, there are various ways in which you can find a value. Oh, this method is not getting fired, sorry. skip this topic, delete this part in the video. Now the one more thing we need to understand is the JavaScript object notation. Now, what is JavaScript object notation? It is used for syntax for storing and exchange data. It's always in the name value pair and separated by comma. So this is for serializing and deserializing JavaScript objects. So square brackets will hold arrays. Now what will happen is, now see this object, name John and x equal to object of name. Now if you stringify this object, it will become a JSON string. Okay, this is the JSON string which gets passed to usually to REST endpoints, that is integration endpoints. So you cannot pass an object to an endpoint. Okay, that we'll see next. So you'll have to serialize it and then send it. So let us look at this example here. So we already have a array, so let us stringify that. Okay, so we have this array over here. And we'll see what it shows. So this way what will happen is, now this data is ready to be sent on to integration points. Okay, you cannot send JavaScript objects, you'll have to serialize it and send it, because JSON is an internationally accepted format for integrations. So let's see this. So let's comment this, we need this comment. So if you see here, now this is the JSON object. Now look at the difference here. This is the object. Now this is a JSON stringified. Okay, this can now be passed to any endpoint. Now we'll also stringify an object here. We had created a contact object, right? Was it here or in the previous? Yeah, so now what we'll do is we'll do the JSON.stringify of this object. Okay, and we will see so if you see JSON2 here, now see, now this is the stringified object which can be passed to endpoints. Okay. Right now it has taken the last value. So basically you have to convert this. This is the JavaScript object notation. Okay. You can also have the reverse you can do of this, which is if you get an object, you can parse it. Okay, you can parse it and convert it to an object. So if you get a JSON and you want to convert it to an object, you can use JSON.parse. Alright, so no need to demo that, because that's a bit. Next topic is we have a couple of more topics, two more topics. The most important topic here is we have to fetch method from a remote URL. So we have something called as, we already seen the promise object. We'll see the promise object here. So now whenever you send a request to an endpoint from JavaScript, like say for an HTTP request, you can use this fetch to use. to connect to edge endpoint. The fetch method will return a promise object. The promise object contains two methods, okay? One is the dot then and dot catch to handle the response and the error. So how does it work is you say fetch and you pass the URL to it. The dot then, if it is a correct response, you will get the value over here. If it is a failed response, it will give you you can handle the error over here. Now this, if you see the arrow function, now this is the response, okay? So whatever value you do, you will get it over here.